Hey, this is Mike from the One Stop Co-op Shop, here to do a quick review of Intrepid, currently on Kickstarter. Intrepid is a game for 1 to 4 players of cooperative dice placement, where you each control an asteroid on the International Space Station, trying to fix it after a horrible disaster has put you all in danger. So does Intrepid make you feel like you're living out Apollo 13 or Gravity? Let's find out and talk about what's great and what you might want to be concerned about. The first thing I want to focus on that I really enjoy with Intrepid is the variety in the astronauts you can play. Each of them has fully unique action tiles they start with and can build that lets them use dice to do different things. But more importantly than that, each of them has a key quirk. For example, the US has tons of dice mitigation and generally needs lots of doubles, while on the much more complicated side, a nation like Malaysia, whenever you use an action, forces you to dial down or up all your dice and might make you lose some of them. So Intrepid is one of those games that encourages you and rewards you for trying out different factions and seeing how they all play. And I love the variety and complexity they've gone for. This is a lot like Bullet that I reviewed recently, in that I can give my wife or my son, for example, one of the 1 complexity nations, and they'll have a pretty easy time playing, whereas I can challenge myself with one of the 3 or 4 complexity nations, and will tend to be on about an even playing field. All this plays into another big pro for the game, which is how fun the little dice puzzle you have each turn is, and how cooperative it is. Each player will roll between 2 and 9 dice, and they'll start putting those dice on the action spaces available to them, and a lot of them have abilities that will chain together. So putting a die here will let you change your dice, so you can put a die here, which will give you another die that lets you put dice here, which kind of builds into a nice feel of just being combo-licious and clever. But what makes it even better is you have the ability to trade dice with the other players, so you can shore up the numbers you missed out on, and it just kind of adds to the puzzle, as does the fact that you might need to all share dice to start the missions you need to complete, or to deal with terrible disasters affecting the ship. And that leads right into another great thing. I love the disaster cards that face you every turn. I love how terrible they can be, just building up the tension, damaging and even completely destroying the tiles on your station that you need for actions. And many of them have ongoing effects that you can prevent every turn by spending some of your dice, and you can even resolve fully by spending more, but it's all this give and take. Do I need to produce the resources we have to survive? Do we have enough oxygen? Or can we deal with this fire that's broken out? It's just really great ramping up in tension and desperation, especially at higher difficulty settings. And finally, I really like the upgrading choices you have. You can flip your action tiles over to get better options with them, buy entirely new tiles, which tend to be huge upgrades, but those again emphasize the fun cooperation because every new tile I build is going to affect negatively the resource generation of someone on the other side of my team. So we have to constantly be talking and building tiles in concert so that we don't completely destroy the production of one of our key resources and lose the game for everybody. But with all those great things being said, there are, as always, some things to consider that you might not enjoy as you decide whether to back the Kickstarter or not. First of all, after the players have placed their action dice every round, you have to calculate how much you've generated of each of the 4 resources. And while it's not complex math, you're adding single and sometimes double-digit numbers, it does feel like the game is a bit math-heavy, especially if you have a player that just hates addition. The second thing I want to note that could cause a negative play experience is that the second in any round that you don't generate enough of one of the 4 resources, you immediately die. Your astronauts can't breathe, or they can't eat, or it's too cold and they freeze to death. And this certainly has the potential to cause a negative play experience. Now, it never happened to me in any of my games, but we came close sometimes, like only generating 1 over what we needed, so it's certainly possible. Another potential concern facing some players of the game is the possibility of analysis paralysis, if you have one player who's really struggling with how to use their dice, or wants to calculate the amount of resources every single second. And that can contribute to another potential concern that you want to be careful of, which is if you have one player that has a faction that's way too simple or way too complex with their experience level, then you could have a mismatch in turn length, where I finish my puzzle in a minute, but you take 3 or 4 minutes and we just have to wait around for you. So overall, I thought Intrepid was a blast. I loved it single player and 2-player, and also really enjoyed it 3 and 4-player. I had so much fun playing around with all the different nations, struggling with tough dice placement choices, what to upgrade, when to start a mission, when to get emergency supplies but put ourselves in danger. Just lots of great choices, lots of great cooperation and conversation throughout the game. But definitely consider before you back some of the things I mentioned, especially the math heaviness and the potential for analysis paralysis if you know your group struggles with that. And hey, if you'd like to see the game in action, click the link that just showed up to watch my full solo playthrough. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.